Out here live at Thunder Alley, we got Ben having a good time. The fans starting to file in as they've opened the gates for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final series between your Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. I want to welcome you here to our Tampa Bay Facebook and YouTube pages. I am Ryan Bass. This is 10 Sports' Ben Murphy. For the first time in 2,027 days, we have a Stanley Cup Final game in this building at Amalie Arena. You pumped for your first Stanley Cup Final here at Amalie?
My guy, it's a madhouse around here. If your blood's not flowing a little bit higher, faster, higher, your heart rate's going higher than normal, then you're not alive right now. About what, minute and a half ago, they let all the fans pile up the stairs at Thunder Alley, and we are living. Ryan, you mentioned it. All the days since it's been a host site of a Stanley Cup. In that 2015 year, it was a tough one. And that core group of Stamkos, Johnson, they had to sit for 5 years to get it done, not here. So this has got to be good for them.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee you right now, as a player in that locker room, you get those butterflies, right? Not like you don't get it for Game 7 as they had on Friday, but this is the Stanley Cup Final. This is the biggest game series in sport for these guys. You grow up wanting to be in this position to play for championships. And not many times do you get a team going for back-to-back titles. The Tampa Bay Lightning will be the first team since the Pittsburgh Penguins a few years ago, back in the 2016-2017 season, to win back-to-back titles. They're just the fourth team since the turn of the millennium to go and compete for back-to-back Stanley Cups. So this isn't something that happens all the time. And ever since they put that salary cap in the 2005-2006 season, they've had more of a parity among the sport. This is their window for the Lightning. They know how critical it is, and they're heavy favorites going into this series against the Habs.
Heavy favorites. If you keep up with Vegas at all, minus 275 are the odds. If you don't know what that stands for,
that's pretty heavily favored, yes,
it's very
on the Lightning side.
And I don't think it's any discredit to winning or any different to what it meant to the players winning in the bubble, but I think getting their hands on the trophy, experiencing the celebrations,
sipping the bubbly out of the cup, I mean, come on.
Yeah, and although it was a shorter time to be able to kind of hold on to things, it means just as much for them to hold on. I mean, Pat Maroon earlier today, we heard the sound. He's like, I just want to party with the dang trophy again.
Well, and Maroon, you mentioned him. He's a guy that ever since he's came to this franchise, all they've done is win.
Yeah.
He won a cup title with the Blues a few years ago, won it last year with the Lightning, and now has an opportunity to win his third consecutive Stanley Cup. Not many guys have done that in this game. But this Lightning team as a whole, and you feel it, you sense it.
Yeah.
They've got 13 guys from that roster that lost in that Game 7 to the Caps a few years ago when they had the opportunity to go to the Stanley Cup. This is their third Cup Final appearance in the last 7 years. This is a team that has gone through it, right? They've been through the ringer. They understand what it's like to be in these situations. They're up against a group in Montreal that's got a very young roster, a team that is blossoming, starting to reach their peak. I think they've been 11-2 since they lost a couple of games, or one of those games in that opening, those 3 games in the opening series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is going to be an interesting series, if not just for the matchup of experience versus youth, but you've got 2 franchises here, one in the Canadiens, who've won more than any team in the NHL, and the Lightning, this is their opportunity to win.
They haven't done it since '93, and it was an interesting team that you were talking about with the Canadiens, the 18th best record in the NHL in the regular season. They lost the last 5 games of the regular season. Talking about Vegas odds, them to just get here alone was odd to find, and they're going up against a team that's so mentally tough, and the experience of this group. How impressive is it, Ryan Bass, that in 2 years, over a 2-year span of playoffs, they don't lose back-to-back games? I was talking to Bobby Deskins about this. There's games, Game 1 here at Amalie in the semifinals. They come out flat. They lose to the Islanders on home ice. And you look at it like, it feels like we're playing at half speed, but every time you have that feeling in your gut and are a little concerned about this team, there's a rally, there's a big brother moment, there's a reset, and I don't know what it is in the locker room, if it's Coop, if it's the core group, the older guys like Stamkos, but they are resilient.
When you've been through the ringer, and I'll tell you, when this team got swept by the Blue Jackets the year that they made NHL history, the best regular season any team has ever had in the National Hockey League, and then they get their butt whooped. They get it handed to them in the first round by a team that was tougher than them, came out and was more aggressive than them. And ever since that moment, ever since that game, Game 4, where they lost back-to-back games, they got swept from that series, they haven't lost back-to-back contests in the playoffs. They're 14-0 following a loss in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And you have guys like Stammer and Cooch and Hetty and Andrei Vasilevsky that now have got that playoff grit and that experience, and you sense that after a loss. These guys don't panic. They're not worried when they're down. Now, I will say they've got to learn how to play better when they have a lead. We saw that in Game 6 against the Islanders. They were up 2-0 and then squandered that lead. And of course, the Islanders forced Game 7. I know John Cooper's talked about that as a key in this series. Win Game 1, though. 75% of teams that win Game 1 in a Stanley Cup Final go on to win it. Now, the exception to that rule has been the Lightning, because in the 2 years they've won the Cup, they have lost Game 1, but still gone on to win it. But I guarantee you the guys in that locker room, and John Cooper's saying it to his guys, we have to go out, we have to establish dominance in this game. Don't let a young and hungry team, because sometimes then inexperience can be blissful, right? You go in, you don't know. You're just playing by pure talent. And I feel like don't let the Habs get that sort of momentum. Come out and punch them right in the mouth.
And you got to attack the experience of this team. And I think it starts in the first period with Carey Price. These two guys in net, the two best in the playoffs statistically. Andrei Vasilevsky allowing just under 2 goals a game at 1.99 the average, which is ridiculous. And that's a whole nother storyline. Hey, can you beat this guy 4 times in a row? 4 times in a series?
I don't know.
That's part of the reason why they've been so good in these bounce-back games. It's hard to beat Vazzy by himself 4 times.
He's been really good. And we mentioned it after Game 7, you and I post-game. 5 times now he has a shutout in his playoff career, and that tied him with Hobby Bulin and Ben Bishop. Now he has an opportunity, not Ben Bishop, Bobby Bulin, I forget the other guy at times, but now he has an opportunity to surpass that in the series. I got a feeling that we're going to get some sort of shutout in this series from Andrei Vasilevsky. But that's the matchup, but then the matchup that I'm interested to see. Carey Price, the old guard, right? Long known as the best netminder in all of hockey. Now with the new guy, Andrei Vasilevsky, who's likely to win his second Vezina award in his history, which puts him right up there with Carey Price. That's the matchup I'm excited to see. Those two netminders up against each other.
And what's cool about Vazzy is he shows up in the biggest moments, right? So starting with the Dallas series last year, all the way up into this series, every series since they won the Stanley Cup has ended in an Andrei Vasilevsky shutout. So when you've got a guy who's not only the best keeper in the world, who trains and preps harder than anyone else, when he shows up on the biggest stage, when the biggest stage arrives, he's there. And I think that's going to be something to watch for tonight. I'm excited. What else you got? What else you got to look forward to?
So a couple storylines I want to give you heading into this series. As again, we're here live at Thunder Alley. Ryan Bass, Ben Murphy here with you. 10 Sports, we're going to have you covered all throughout the night, post-game as well. So make sure you tune into 10 Tampa Bay tonight after the game. We will make sure we have you covered for Game 1. But you're seeing fans starting to file in here for Game 1. Capacity has been increased up to 16.3 to 16.5. Now, I will tell you, you and I were in that building for Game 7, and we were looking around, we're like, capacity limit? Feels like every seat is filled. Feels like every seat is filled in this arena. It's going to be even more filled tonight. They actually released more game tickets just prior to today to allow fans to purchase more to get in for Game 1 tonight. But ahead of Game 1, you have one. The Tampa Bay Lightning looking to become the first team since the Pittsburgh Penguins to go back-to-back in this salary cap era. Number 2, you have the Canadiens trying to become the first Canadian team to win a title since 1993. As you mentioned, the Habs were the last to do it, and they would like to win their 25th overall Stanley Cup title. And then the third, another game within the game, power play versus the penalty kill. The Lightning are the second best power play unit in the NHL playoffs. The Canadiens have gone 30 straight PKs without allowing a goal. They have killed off 30 straight penalties, which again is a matchup within a matchup to see whether that high-powered, high-octane offense of the Lightning on the power play can beat this team, which has been exceptional the last 13 games at killing penalties.
Something's got to give, and it'll be interesting to see how ready and how healthy Kuch is. I know Nikita Kucherov
he says like,
there's
no injury. Yeah,
I don't know what that means, because even Kuch was talking about, we don't know, it's a game-time decision before Game 7. He exited Game 6. There was an injury, he would have come back in Game 6. Again, I'm not sure if he was at 100% in Game 7. He played 16 minutes. If he's at full strength and this power play's got a weekend of rest, something's got to give. And if I'm a betting man, it's gonna give on the blue and white side.
I think they're gonna break it at some point in this series. Now, I will tell you, you can't get lucky like they did on a shorthanded goal in Game 7 and expect that to be their bread and butter all series long. You need your guys. You need your Stammers, your Kuches, your top lines, including Braden Point, which that point scoring, that goal scoring streak ended in Game 7. You need those guys to show up. But the Lightning have been really good when their defensemen have scored. When you get McDonough, Sergachev, Hedman, right?
The semifinals for them to score in the entire playoffs.
When you get those guys involved, that's when this team can be very deadly. Because we know that those big hitters on the outside can score. But when you get those defensemen that are ready to come in here and score goals, that's when it can become deadly for this team. Montreal, again, they're not going to get pushed around. This is a team that's gone 11-2 since that last loss in that opening series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a team that's here for a reason, and one that's deserving to be here, and I know the Lightning aren't going to overlook it.
But even on the physicality end, the Lightning were not there in Game 6 and only had 25 hits. They almost doubled it in Game 7. So when they need to turn up the juice and play physical, the Islanders were playing bully ball in a couple of those games. We saw it on the injury front. But when they needed to turn up the things on the defensive end, when Hedman and the boys get in on the offensive end, it's great and tough to beat at all when that happens. But when it starts to get physical, if the Lightning prove in a 1-0 game, they can play with the big boys too. It's not just up and down.
I like that you pointed out earlier in our show on 10 Tampa Bay, the Brisebois Bowl between these two teams. Take me into the history, because GM Julien Brisebois, who of course took over for Steve Yzerman, is leading this team up in the front office and really the man just kind of handling everything as far as a move standpoint is concerned. But there's a little connection between the Canadians.
Connection, and Yzerman's a good guy to learn from. So he was the direct Brisebois from Canada, got his start in the NHL with the Canadians, worked his way up through the Canadians, eventually director of hockey ops, oversaw the AHL team, really in a lot of their player development. 2010, gets the call, comes to Tampa, and again, oversees the development of guys like Braden Point. Who
by the way, 7 years ago to this day, was drafted in the third round by the Lightning. So 7 years ago today, they made one of the best selections of franchise history.
So not only was he able to, keep the core together of a team that won the Stanley Cup last year, but he really oversaw the development of a lot of these guys, from Cooch, who was here at age 20, 21, 22, to Braden Point, who scored in 9 straight playoff games these playoffs. And now the two teams that Julien Brisebois got to really develop and manage and see grow up are in the Stanley Cup Final under his watch. That's
pretty
awesome.
cool. I mean,
that's
again,
pretty cool. I mean, you got to sit back, even if you're just a hockey fan in himself, you got to be sitting there like, all right, this is pretty awesome.
He's a pretty humble guy, though, and he's not going to come here and be boastful, obviously. But you've had your fingerprints all over both rosters, and it's cool to kind of see the development within here with this Tampa Bay Lightning team. All right, as we start to wrap up this live, keys to Game 1 tonight for the Lightning to get a victory and go up 1-0 in this series. Again, teams that go up 1-0 in the Stanley Cup Final, they go on to win 75% of the time. Your keys for tonight's Game 1.
Scoring in the first period. I like the Lightning with a lead, and Carolina lost, 2 Islander losses. Struggled in the first period. It'd be interesting to see how they come out in the first 20, take the energy. Look, the Canadians have been playing in front of 4,000 fans.
3,500 basically up there in the Bell Center.
This is going to be different. And I know they went to Vegas, but this is going to be rowdy, and taking those first 20 minutes and setting the table for the rest of the 4, 5, 6, or 7 that we're going to see over the next 2 weeks. Look for period 1 today.
My own key is settle down and play your game, because when this team is on their game, there's no team better in hockey.
No,
when they're able to push the other team around, when they're able to be the aggressors, when they're able to get on that power play unit and start scoring goals, that's when they're lethal. Again, I mentioned it, when you're a young group like the Canadiens, sometimes you're a little starstruck, but at other times it's a little blissful to be able to go into situations not knowing anything different. So don't let that young group get any confidence. Come out early, punch them in the mouth, be the aggressors. Make sure you establish the reason why you're a heavy favorite in this series, because you have that experience. You're the defending Stanley Cup champions. Make sure you go out there and own it here in Game 1.
Yeah, it's the ignorance is bliss versus the we ain't letting go of this old trophy.
No, they certainly don't want to let go. They want to chug out. They want another parade, okay? They want another parade right here down the Hillsborough River in celebrating the Stanley Cup championship. All right. So tonight, after Game 1, come find us, Ben Murphy, myself, Evan Klosky, our entire 10 Tampa Bay team. We're going to be covering this for you. Post-game of Game 1 tonight, going to be live right here from Thunder Alley after this Game 1 is done, hopefully celebrating a Lightning victory. We've got Angelina Salcido, who's out here as well. That's going to be reporting live for us. So, again, going to be a party out here, hopefully celebrating a Game 1 victory. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into our live streams here on Facebook and on YouTube. Go Bolts! We'll see you after Game 1.